This episode is brought to you by Irex. With over 160 plus years in malting, they have successfully vertically integrated their supply chain, having the ability to strictly control the quality of their malts and spelt-based mixes. Need a spelt sourdough or malt? Contact Irex today for samples. Get their address below. Hi bakers, what's up with spelt? How many times have you heard about this grain and how tough it is procuring it? Or if you're like me, my experience in commercializing spelt on bread lines have been really challenging. Today, we will cover some issues on working and baking with spelt, and thank you to Thomas at Irex for showing you today the different kinds of spelt products that you can make. It's going to be a fun Ask Dr. Lin episode. This seems to be a common remark by spelt lovers. Unfortunately, spelt is not gluten-free. Therefore, if you are gluten intolerant or if you suffer from celiac disease, you still have to keep away from spelt. Spelt is an ancient crop that was cultivated mainly in Germany and Poland back around 1700 BC. Currently, it is grown in limited quantities in Eastern and Central Europe, Canada, and the US. As spelt contains gluten proteins, it has some bread baking qualities, but they are different. Although the reason why you digest spelt differently is not because of these gluten proteins, it's because of the lower fructans found in spelt. You see, wheat is high in one type of carbohydrate called FODMAPs, which are essentially a short, poorly digested chain of molecules. These FODMAPs triggers IBS or irritable bowel syndrome. Therefore, IBS sufferers must avoid other foods like inulin, sunchokes, garlic, or onions that are high in FODMAPs. Guess what? Spelt is lower in FODMAPs. This is the main reason why someone who has trouble digesting wheat products has an easier time digesting spelt products. Being a cousin of the wheat grain, there are other differences. Here's Matthias Kloffel, a spelt farmer, who would be better at explaining these differences. spelt flour is higher in gliadin and lower in glutenin proteins. What does this mean? More gliadin proteins mean that it glides more and therefore is less bulky or less elastic. Once you get your process attuned to these properties, it shouldn't be difficult to process. However, I believe that this is not the issue with your spelt flour problem. I believe the real issue most bakers experience is the type of spelt flour that you procure and the inconsistencies in its quality. You can keep it consistent from one batch to another with Erex spelt flour bread base. With their high quality spelt flour and using spelt malt, spelt sourdoughs, usually starting at about 35% on flour weight, you should be able to get consistent quality dough that is easy to mix, not sticky, and would result in a higher volume with an extraordinary flavor. Now, to get a sample of their spelt flour, go here to this website. In addition, when you use it at 35%, you can have the versatility of using with other types of flour like whole wheat or kamut and still give it a spelt name. It's true, spelt has a natural nutty flavor to it and longer fermentation times enhances that flavor. Unfortunately, this is a time-dependent factor because you need the yeast or bacterial enzymes to break down the components in spelt in order to release more of this nutty flavor. I would recommend giving it an overnight proof to obtain that objective. However, if you lack the space and resource, a 90-minute straight dough process with a malted spelt flour would also provide very similar nutty flavors. Check out Erex's line of spelt malts and sourdoughs so that you can shorten your fermentation time. You don't have to just stick to boring white spelt bread, You can try other inclusions like lentils or white chocolate chip. In this video, you can see how consistent it is and how pretty the inclusions look in the spelt lentil loaf. It bakes up great as well as results in a visually appealing loaf. The bread mix is called La Souveraine and it's a French bread using 100% white spelt flour, sesame seeds, and red lentils, and one of their best sellers in French Quebec since Erex launched it. It also contains malted spelt flour, spelt malt, and spelt sourdough. Alright bakers, that's all for this episode of how to produce spelt bread. If you have more questions, you can reach Erex at their email below. Remember, be creative with their offerings as their spelt base can also be used in muffins, cookies, bread, and crackers. And if you need any help with your product development, reach out to Erex's technical team. Reach out to them at their email below, and if you need help, check out our Baker Forum also and see what your fellow bakers can recommend. Till the next time, bakers, spelt it right!